solution to this.
I want to bring Messioso in here because I want him.
I also talked to Devilwalk. He's down to talk about like the coaching perspective on this. So
Nice.
when we are finished with Messioso, we can call him in.
All right, let's get Graham in. Lucas, move Graham in. Hello, Graham. How are you going?
Oh shit! Sorry, I had the stream running.
No, that's fine.
I just got double chat. I was like, whoa.
Welcome.
Hi.
Okay, so I've brought you here today. We had you on the show before. People are probably not too familiar if they haven't caught that last episode, so I'll just get it out of there for everybody who maybe not too sure. Mr. Graham Pitt, aka Messioso, is head of operations at head of esport operations at North. He's also worked in the past for ESL, for Blast. You were over there at Godsent for a bit. Basically, what I'm saying is you've got a lot of experience in this field, and especially from a league ops or enforcing rules perspective, based on the work that you did at Blast and ESL. So that's kind of what I want to grab your take on here, because in this shift from LAN to online, the restrictions have been loosened in a way.
Oh, I think Chad just died out.
Okay.
Right, and this is because it can be. Hello?
Yeah, you're lagging out a little bit.
You're dropping out.
Oh, multi-lag. That's what we call
you're
it.
Fine
multi-lag.
now.
Okay. Anyway, I get the question out, so then I can shut up. Point is, can you tell people at home just how difficult it is to enforce these things and why it would be difficult to do so? Like, what possible loopholes are there, and what could people do if they really want to be shady?
In terms of the new online regulations, you mean?
Well, not even the new online ones, right? Like when we went from LAN to online, the question was like, what do we do? And a lot of TOs just said, yeah, the coaches can speak the whole time, because from my understanding, it seems like it would be impossible to enforce having people not being able to communicate across different methods, right? Like
absolutely, it's impossible. The thing with these rules, and the thing that's why the coaches are allowed to speak in the first place, it's unenforceable. Like, you have to have a rule that's enforceable if you make it a rule, right? And it's unenforceable. I mean, anyone can have multiple devices just sitting on their desk. They can be out of the camera shot. They don't have to be on the PC that the tournament organizer is monitoring. I know that Blast have been monitoring the coach's PC and whatnot, and that's great for like in-game stuff, but it doesn't stop them looking at other stuff. You know, when the whole sort of ecosystem is so unmonitorable, you can't control every aspect of the playing sort of surface, the playing area, like you brought up before with the phones. You know, that was like kind of the first part that we did, like with ESL. You know, we took your phones and you couldn't have them. As soon as you logged into Steam and you got that Steam Guard code, your phone went in a box. You didn't see it for 3 hours. You know, you didn't give a crap about Twitter. You just played the game.
Yeah.
And you know, then we started going, okay, now you have to give do you remember giving keyboard and mouse in? We discussed this on Twitter a few days ago, didn't we?
I had to give my gear in, and you guys would test the gear overnight to make sure I didn't have anything on the mouse or on the keyboard or anything. Yeah,
exactly. And you know, sometimes we take them apart and see if there's anything in there. You know,
really?
Like, I wouldn't say that.
Oh dear.
No, we never took anyone's gear apart. That would be extremely reckless. But you know, but
then you put it back, and there's like 3 screws.
But that was the implied thing, right? You know, it was implied that we would check over the hardware that you're using to ensure there was no, you know, foreign agents in there. You know, we'd restrict the drivers you could install on the PCs to make sure that, you know, you only had drivers that we had downloaded from, you know, from the manufacturer's website, so that we knew that the software that was going onto the PCs, aside from, you know, what we'd set up originally, was, you know, was clean. There was no manipulation involved. You know, it began and has gotten a lot better in the past. Well, I think we first introduced that in 2015. So in the last 5 years, it's gotten considerably better. And, you know, I think that, you know, prior to 2015, I think Katowice qualifier 2015, you were there, Vox Eminor, I think.
Yep.
That was the first event where we started doing like no internet access, right, on the PCs. And it was a pain in the ass. It caused so many problems, but we got through it. But I think before that period, anyone could have easily cheated on LAN. So arguably some players may well have done.
There we go. Back sucks.
No, it's serious. If you had instant access on PCs at a LAN event, you could have easily cheated. No question about that. I think these days, cheating on LAN would be extremely hard. Like at like a top level tournament, you know, I'm talking like ESL Blast. I haven't been to Flashpoint, but I assume it's Flashpoint because they've got the Faceit guys behind it.
Yeah.
Like there's very little way I think you're cheating on those events.
Okay. Well, I want to, because before we fucking blow up the internet with unexpected headlines, If we narrow in just a little bit more with this online stuff, right, and factor in what you've seen Valve just do now, is that any surprise to you?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Is what Valve have done now with their decision as like a knee-jerk reaction to all of the shit that happened over the last 6 months? Is that a surprise to you that they've gone that far?
Not in the slightest. You know, I was the guy that sent the email to all the teams back at ESL in 2016 that said, "Sorry, your coach is no longer allowed to talk." You know, the whole game, right?
Yep.
I was the guy who sent that email to all the teams. You know, I literally ruined Starix's coaching career, right? You know, Navi had just traded off Starix and got Simple in, like, oh yeah, Starix can coach from the, you know, he can IGL from the back, and everything was great. And then, you know, they completely killed that, right? And they've kind of tried to do it again here. You know, our team is one that's affected. We made a roster change. We, like, you know, at the end of last year, we removed our IGL in the hopes that we would then build a new IGL with the assistance of our head coach.
That's the karma right there, striking.
So and we, you know, we wrote it in the statement. You know, Nicholas Gale will be helped by our coach in in-game leading. You know, especially during the COVID period, to build up to the point where when we got offline, he's more confident and, you know, in a better place. And now we can't do that in the RMR. And that's frustrating, right?
Yeah, for sure. And obviously with you guys being one of the teams who were, you obviously get the residual points based off where you already were in the RMR rankings and stuff. Do you consider that the fact that this is blanket is a problem, right? Or do you think that like this is the only way that Valve are able to remove themselves from having their event results in question? Because some of these RMR events last year is where Zona was exploiting the bug, if I remember rightly, right?
Yeah, he did. I think he did it in 2 of them, actually.
So with that in mind, like for them making it a blanket rule here, and obviously you guys affected negatively, teams were already getting an advantage. I don't want to say advantage. Teams already had different circumstances from when they were on LAN anyway, right? Like if you guys were on the LAN circuit, your coach would only be able to communicate with your team for 2 minutes over an entire map. So already you were getting a little bit of a benefit of the online thing because of the lack of being able to enforce. But now,
I mean, I would argue that we actually got it worse last year, because I think last year, obviously, we had MSL. I think he's one of the best in-game leaders in the game. So I think that the fact that other coaches could communicate, because we specifically didn't have Jumpy communicate because we wanted to be ready for a post-COVID world.
Sure.
So, you know, you can think of it both ways, but I think it's obviously extremely tough for the coaches who have actually been extremely clean and haven't done all these bad things. It's really rough to see their input on the game, which I think is huge, sort of, you know, deteriorate. It's really tough. And I know that Zeus, is he the EG coach now, I think?
Yeah.
Like he wrote a big post on Twitter, and it's heartbreaking because, you know, these guys put as much, if not more, effort into the game than perhaps some of the players do. And to see them all being sort of unifiedly punished for essentially a few bad eggs is really tough.
But this is the thing I'm having trouble with, Graham. And I don't know if because I'm literally not in their positions, right? Like I read Zeus sent like a bunch of string of tweets to me. I can probably find it and we can bring it up and we can maybe discuss that in detail. But when we look at this, right? He was basically saying, yeah, it's one event, but it affects like negotiating with my employer, because it's the majors, this, that, and the other. I'll get it brought up so we can go over it, Lucas. Here it is. But if this is just Valve protecting its own online event, which could potentially be just one RMR event, right? We don't know what's going to happen with COVID, but let's assume, because it has the first RMR event online guaranteed, second one is a maybe if we need it, and the third one has to be LAN before the major.
Yeah.
Do you think that the flow and effects of this announcement will bleed into other tournaments at the top scale?
No, I don't.
But at the lower scale or the middle scale, do you think it will bleed in at all?
It certainly won't at a mid and lower scale, because again, it's unenforceable, and those tournament organizers have already shown that they don't care about enforcing that kind of rules. They're just going to go on the standard kind of, you know, play online. You know, essentially, those are the organizers that have been doing online Counter-Strike when LAN Counter-Strike was a thing.
True.
They're just going to keep going. At the top level, I don't see it really causing much of effect. I don't see ESL, Blast, you know, DreamHack, Flashpoint as well. I don't see them restricting coaches any more than they have already. I see them putting more effort into, you know, detecting these things, because that's what their jobs, that's innovation, that's what they're meant to do. But I don't think they're going to restrict it anymore. You can look back and think that, you know, DreamHack have been allowing coaches to talk during freeze time for the past 2-3 years, I think it is, at Masters and Open events.
That now, I believe, right? Because
Yeah,
they're more closely under the ESL umbrella, right? So I think that in being in the EPT, they have to follow the rest of the ESL rules.
Yeah, and that makes some sense. But, you know, you could even go back and say, I mean, the one rule that I remember was, I think it was late 2015 at ESL, we made a decision to change the after round time from from 7 to 5 or 5 to 7. I can't remember which way it was.
I think it was less.
I think it was more. I think we went from 5 to 7.
Oh, really? I remember it was too quick at one point, and then one point it was, I forgot. Yeah.
But there was some real confusion here, because we changed it. We ran the offline qualifier for I think it was Katowice and Cologne. No, it was the Cologne qualifier for 2016, because obviously MLG Columbus was it was in Katowice, but MLG Columbus was the first major of that year. So we ran the second major, which was in Cologne, and we ran the qualifier with the changed number. And then we got to the main event, the major. Valve brings their servers, their thing, and of course Valve always enforces matchmaking rules.
Yeah.
So after the first game, someone was like, "Yeah, it seems like the after round time is a bit wrong." And I tested it. I was like, "It is wrong," but it wasn't wrong, because Valve obviously enforced their rules. And I went to ask them, and they're like, "No, it's matchmaking, so it's the same as matchmaking." So I can't remember if it was 5 to 7 or 7 to 5, but it was one of them. And I think it's still that to this day. I think there's already still an in-game difference between.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, the only thing I remember they did agree to change the freeze time from 15 to 20 seconds.
20, yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, as far as I know, the major is still 2 seconds off on the on essentially the gun saving and killing the last guy alive kind of thing. So
I think it's longer in matchmaking, by the way.
Yeah, I think it was reduced in the
officials.
Yeah, I think so. It's honestly so long ago, and I don't really care anymore. But I remember that being like a very sort of big thing in my mind, was that they were very happy to go against each other. ESL was like, no, this is what we think the rule is, and Valve were like, well, this is a major, so this is the rule.
So,
yeah.
I just wanted to ask about the only thing that we didn't touch on from North's perspective about the RMR points being reset. I can also send Shox's tweet. People are mentioning it in the chat, because they're kind of on the other side of the scale.
Yeah, they were way ahead,
Vitality, right? Just to say, Vitality had 1,700 points lead towards the second place team in the
and
RMR.
Now they're even.
So that's a lot that they lost with this flattening, let's say, of the points. But how do you look on it?
Yeah, I mean, for us specifically, I think we had we were 11, no matter what. But I think the main difference is that now we're only 60 points ahead of every other team that isn't qualified. Whereas before we were 1,700 or something, right? Or not quite that much, but I know that Ents technically wouldn't have continued with their points, so there was some weird stuff. But I'm looking at complexity and mouse sports right now, and I'm thinking, damn, they were two really good teams that actually didn't have that many points, and now they are literally sniffing right behind me, and that's frustrating, very frustrating, because you put all this year's worth of effort in, and we didn't really get the reward. Yes, they've announced the major for next year, but there should have been 3 majors in that period, so the major should be $4 million, right? Not $2 million. let's just start there. The stickers, that's great. It's great. But
how the stickers...
there's no signature stickers.
Can
so
you
the
help
players'
us with that?
Revenue is different, right?
Yeah,
it's only team